MIck Hucknall of Simply Red talks about Eric's manager Roger Eagle backstage at the Liverpool Summer Pops concert in July 2003.
Well, Roger also managed us. Yeah. He took us on after Eric's. We did this mad show in Eric's. That's when I first met Pete Wiley and Ian McCluskey and all that lot, and they were all hanging out in Eric's. Yeah. And some of them used to work in the record shop just across the road, Probe, yeah, Jeff at Probe, and Roger used to get all his dub reggae from there. And he really liked us, and he managed us, him and Pete Fulwell. Pete Fulwell was more involved with Wah at the time, but he was working with Pete Fulwell with the Eric's thing, and then he offered to manage us. And at that time Roger had this flat in New Brighton, and he'd try and get us gigs, as many gigs as he could, but to be honest, he wasn't really a manager. I mean, he kind of he dressed a bit like an off-duty tax officer, Roger. He was very always wore a shirt and you know, and a belt, and smoked these awful menthol cigarettes all the time.
Well, you seem to think I enjoy this. You're thinking I do it for fun. The only thing on my mind is searching for the only one. Searching for the only one.
At the forefront of electronic music in Liverpool in the late 70s and early 80s was OMD's Andy McCluskey, who recalled vividly how he got started in music and his early influences at his Motor Museum studio in October 2002.
In terms of actually wanting to do something musical, I had a couple of friends at school who had started buying guitars and expressing an interest in playing music, and that's where I got interested in the possibility of actually playing, because I had friends who actually had instruments. But the first thing that really kind of made me feel like doing something in a particular musical direction was probably hearing Autobahn by Kraftwerk. Single, I think it was in about 75, and being a good teenager wanting to do something that was about creating my own identity, I loved it because it was different, and it just hooked me as like, that is something interesting. And they came to play in Liverpool at the Empire a few months later, and I went to see them, and I seem to recall I was sitting in seat Q36. That's how much of a defining moment it was. And it was the first day of the rest of my life. These guys came on stage. You know, 75 was all long hair and flared trousers and lead guitar solos ad nauseum, and these guys came on in suits and ties playing electronic tea trays with wired up knitting needles and played a set that was just stunningly different. And so that was it. That was when I thought, right, I want to do electronic music.
Backstage at the annual Liverpool Summer Pops concert in July 2003, Jim Kerr of Simple Minds explains where the band's name came from.
Where did the name come from?
It was actually, we went to school in Glasgow, and it was a kind of peculiar school because half the school were from housing scheme, and the other half were sort of with Neil and I types, you know, bit mortgage, bit toffee, bit mental, even more mad than the housing scheme kids. And it came from one of those nutty guys. He used to write us, you know, school desks, Johnny and myself and musers, and we'd say, who's that? Let's get this imaginary band. So kind of you would see it on the walls, you would see it about. That was a thing in Glasgow then. There was no scene, and bands were playing, you know, hard rock and sort of whiskey drinking music. And we would go along and complain to the local pub owner, and he called our bluff. You know, said, well, if you can do any better, do it next Monday night, you know. Sure. So it was kind of pulled together for one night.
Recalling his earliest memories of playing at Eric's Club backstage at Liverpool's Neptune Theatre in February 2003 is Jean-Jacques of the Stranglers.
I think we were the first band to play there, if I recall. I think it was 1976. When it got packed, not that first time, but when it got packed in 77 we came back. And there was so much condensation from the walls that our keyboard, it dropped into the keyboards and the circuitry and cut it out. So it was that hot.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, but the first time we played there, very few people, because I think it was just opening up. And I think the Runaways played soon.
Pete Cliff, one of the managers of Eric's, talks about his time there.
Yeah, mine's Pete Cliff. I was the manager of Eric's from 1977 to 1978. I joined the club soon after they opened, replacing one of the owners, who was Ken Testi. There were originally three partners: Roger Eagle, Pete Fulwell and Ken Testi. I believe that Roger and Peter bought out Ken. And I actually originally joined as a doorman, because a friend of mine was working behind the bar, and she said that they had a job looking for a doorman. Now, obviously, I wasn't particularly interested, because I'm not a thug temperament. But she said, no, it's a new club, a music club, and very good atmosphere. There's never any trouble there.
Taxi, won't you take me? Wait, no, don't wait.
One of the owners and managers of Eric's, Ken Testi, recalls his memory of meeting Roger Eagle.
The occasion on which Queen supported Mock the Hoople at the stadium, but that was early 70s.
Right.
And then when Deaf School came to Roger's attention, I've been working with Deaf School since before their first gig, and I was tour managing them. And Roger, being the local promoter, with his finger on the pulse, had spotted that this was something that he could do something with, and we started doing shows for Roger. Some small ones, some big ones, and the great thing about Deaf School was that they just didn't care where they played. They're quite happy to play a gig in a greasy spoon, on the back of a milk float, Al Halligan's parlour, in a field, in a shed. It didn't matter.
What a way to end it all. 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 Goodbye, cruel world, and cheerio. For all this time I've got to go.